Hi everybody, welcome to Myopia Movies. This week we talk about a classic, I guess, Pretty Woman. One of those movies that people probably know more about than have actually seen it. But it was a lot of fun. One I had not seen all the way through before, and it was a kind of a virtual recording, and it was a blast to see the people who don't usually get to be on the show talking about this kind of all-timer rom-com that made Julia Roberts a household name. Anyway, thank you for doing all you do to get us into your home and into your ears. Thank you for sharing us. Thanks for keeping us on the charts, not only here in the States, but globally. It means a great deal to us that we have so many international listeners as well as local listeners. And we have one more February episode, so stay tuned. Thanks, everyone.
Welcome to Myopia Movies. We're continuing our romance month with the prostitute with a heart of gold, Richard Gere. I am your host, Nick Hoffman, and on panel we've got fellow Cineprov Riffer,
Nor Chernette.
And on panel we've got
Keiko. Lauren.
So, Lauren, I know you plugged this movie. You asked me to put it on the list, I believe.
Yeah.
6 months ago. So we're finally getting to it. Yeah. This is probably the first Richard Gere movie I ever saw back in the day. Yeah. And of course we've got Julia, who's wonderful in this, and Jason Alexander in a surprise role right as Seinfeld's going on. So, Lauren, why don't we so rarely get movies that are actually claimed by people. So why'd you pick this movie? Why'd you want us to do it?
I picked it just because I just remember really enjoying it. I liking it at the time. I loved the chemistry between Richard Gere and Julia Roberts. This movie is what really made her big. Yeah. It's what put her into ultra stardom. And I've always been kind of a Julia Roberts fan. So I just remember liking it. The story and kind of that redemption arc, and just remembered it being pretty decent acting, and so that's why.
No, it's totally fine. It's a good call for us because it's on one hand it's like a very strange movie.
Yeah.
Right? It's heightened realism. It's not a standard rom-com, but also it's so shockingly famous.
Yes.
Right? Like, this movie came out in 1990. It's now 33 years old-ish, 34 years old-ish. And it is just, it's a lot. Like, It's crazy. Like, this is Richard Gere almost at the height of his powers. I think of him as an early 90s kind of star. Like you said, Julia Roberts is an early 90s, like, megastar. And she goes into the early 2000s. Like, I remember a Julia movie being a thing. Kind of thing we don't have anymore because we don't have big budget rom-coms anymore, but like she was kind of the first vestige of that 90s thing. And there's also the Gary Marshall thing. There's also the Ralph Bellamy thing. You have Hector Elizondo in it. This is like a huge movie casting wise, and it's such a strange idea.
Yeah.
The prostitute with the heart of gold story.
There are so many TV shows and movies have referenced some of the famous scenes in this.
Yeah.
And there's even a musical now.
Yeah.
We talked about they can turn anything into a musical. They've turned this into a musical now. So, yeah, I think it's definitely kind of become a little bit part of the pop culture.
Yeah. And I think technically it is the highest number of tickets sold for a rom-com ever, even ahead of My Big Fat Greek Wedding and stuff. Like, it's still like the biggest rom-com ever. And now that they don't put rom-coms in theaters anymore, it will probably be that forever.
Yeah.
Which is crazy because, again, it's a rom-com, but it's just so strange. I think I've heard like my 3 Weddings and a Funeral is the big ones, or My Best Friend's Wedding, which is that's an insane movie. But like, this is again the prostitute with a heart of gold story, which, like you said, is, since at least 3 of us here are kids of the 90s, I think of this movie being parodied constantly. There's even like a Chappelle Show gag about this. You remember that? Where he's doing like real versus real.
Real, yeah.
And like the thing is like, so Julia Roberts is giving that monologue like, well, I thought it was so glamorous, blah, 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 blah. And he goes, just get the fuck out. Like, and then it cuts to credits.
This grossed over $500 million
That's crazy.
worldwide. I looked it up.
Shoestring
It grossed over
budget?
$500 $1 billion, which in 1990 is unreal.
Yeah, and it was.
So I think that's part of it is because it like everyone saw it.
It's very charming, and I think it had to be. Like, I don't know how they set this up, like, because if they were not charming, if they did not have chemistry, this would be a weird, gross, sad movie.
Yeah. And it was tastefully done, too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's not... God, what other prostitute movies do y'all know?
Monster
would be one.
With Halle Berry?
Leaving Las
No,
Vegas
with-
is the other prostitute with the heart of gold.
Charlize
Leaving Las Vegas
Theron?
with Elizabeth Shue.
Oh, okay.
She was a prostitute,
Monster,
right?
Okay.
Yeah.
She just happened to kill her
Right.
customers.
It's
It's not the best,
but it's not
prostitute.
like this, you know. Like I actually felt, I smiled.
Yeah, you know, and that's what I like kept finding myself thinking was like, this movie. Did people like not know what prostitutes were really like in the 90s? Like in this time frame, was it what year was it?
1990.
1990. So like in 1990, like were prostitutes like
Well,
cute?
when did they
Like,
clean up Times Square?
Oh, after this.
It was after
so,
this?
So
Yeah.
this is So this is very much
because
right
it's
there.
so like, how do they skirt that line of it's cute, it's charming, she's a hooker.
You get Julia Roberts, a Southern Belle from
I honestly, I
Savannah,
think it's their
Georgia.
chemistry. I think it's their chemistry between them.
Well, and I'm not going to say Julia Roberts isn't attractive in this because she is, but like the other way to do this is like the hypersexual to the point that it's comedy. Because like, example, Best Little Whorehouse in Texas, right? It's Dolly Parton in a bodice the whole time. Well, and it's Burt Reynolds.
funny, yeah.
It's a comedy and it's a musical, but it is over the top sexuality the whole time
Yeah.
because she's walking around in a corset and it's Dolly Parton. And like, or like you said, it's tragic. So if you want to do it a comedy, there's two ways. And this way is not that it's not that she's unattractive. It's just that even when she's scantily clad,
She's modest.
She's modest.
It's
She's
so
a classy
strange.
lady.
Yeah.
Her and her buddy from, was it Just Shoot Me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She was.
She wasn't Just Shoot Me, wasn't she?
She was also, Just Shoot Me. But I love this little story about Richard Gere and Julia Roberts that I found. I like finding out behind the scenes stuff. Richard Gere turned down this movie a few times.
Really?
He did. And the director really wanted him. And so he flew out Julia Roberts. And when they were on the phone, Julia Roberts apparently wrote, "Please say yes" on a Post-it and passed it to him while he was on the phone with the director. And that's what made him say yes. I thought that was cute.
Did they date in real life?
No. I don't think so.
Probably.
I don't think so.
Some probably happened.
No, I don't get that feeling. They have good chemistry, but like
They say if you don't sleep together, that's when you have good chemistry. It's when you have bad chemistry on screen is when you need to be worrying.
well, we've all seen that movie where they have like way too good chemistry, and you're like, oh, this is getting awkward. Like
Yeah.
those romance scenes that go on like 30 seconds too long because he's also the director or something.
I don't
Like a
know.
Ben Affleck movie. What
Yeah.
was that, Geely? Where it's like,
Oh, yeah.
ugh, oof.
I don't know what movie it was called, but Julia Roberts did a movie with, was it Nick Nolte or something like that, where she was like, they were both reporters.
Yeah.
And she was saying that like she hated working with him. Like, and she said,
Nolte.
Yeah.
she said it, she
They
said,
Really, I'd
Seriously
like to see the
feuded,
movie
yeah.
to,
Yeah,
to
she
see
said, like,
what that looks like.
she had said, I might be misquoted, that he was the worst performing actor that she's worked with. So this thing could have turned left. Like, what if it was Nick Nolte in this role? You know what I mean? Or what if it was Jerry Seinfeld? Because Costanza.
Well, yeah, George Costanza's
yeah,
in it,
he was
so-
like, "You gotta get my friend Jerry." That was my Costanza.
She
impression.
does end up getting this reputation for being a hard person to deal with. And again, who knows? I know that her next big movie is Hook, and like
They called her Tinker Hell.
and no one wanted to work with her. So all of her scenes, she's by herself because no one else wanted to be in a scene with her. And I mean, it works because the movie she's superimposed, so she looks smaller, but like no one wanted to be around her. Even that scene where she's big, which is a weird scene for a kids movie. Like apparently that was filmed in double, so like Robin Williams is not there. Like it's all very strange.
That was her next movie after this?
Next big movie, because this is 90, Hook is 91.
Yeah.
So like she was hired because the Marshalls work with Spielberg all the time, so I think they passed her like she's great, use her.
So when was Mystic Pizza was her first role?
Mystic Pizza?
Mystic Pizza is a
That
very
was
good
her
film.
breakout.
What's
Yeah.
Mystic
That was her
Pizza?
breakout role.
It was like her first movie.
That was her first breakout role. This is the one that kind of put her on a
Mystic Pizza is a very
super-
small movie.
Yeah.
And again,
This is one that kind of launched her superstardom, I guess.
okay.
Well known.
Okay. Just trying to put together the
Yeah.
Julia
Mystic
Roberts
Pizza is
timeline.
88. And then the next year she was in Blood Red, which is a small part because she was cast before Mystic Pizza, and she's one of the female leads in Steel Magnolias in
Yeah.
'89 as well. And then she does Pretty Woman and Flatliners the same year, which are both big. And as Lauren alluded to, this was the 4th biggest movie of all time when this came out. This was up there with Star Wars and Indiana Jones and E.T. when this came out. Like that's what we're talking in 1990.
That's what it just kind of blows my mind that this movie had mass appeal being about a prostitute.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
Well, and also it's got that like late 80s like corporate raiders are bad, because Richard Gere's whole thing is like, I'm going to buy up this company
Yeah.
and sell it off for parts. Like smash cut, a cocaine party at I think Jason Alexander's house or something, right? And like there's all these people milling around, and again, I say this all the time. The second Richard Gere comes on stage, I'm like, oh, I should watch him, because this is a beautiful Richard Gere.
Yeah.
He's in a lot of
his
stuff.
prime.
Right. Doesn't he act again with her in Runaway Bride?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because they have chemistry.
Ooh, great
Keep
movie,
casting
too.
him. The first time I remember, I mean, like, again, this is the first thing I saw him in, but it was a TBS movie I saw, like, I didn't really get it. I remember him in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he was
Everyone's
amazing. in
favorite
Chicago.
Academy Award movie that they
give him
immediately
the
forget.
old razzle dazzle.
He is so good at that. At the time,
He's a
that
scene stealer.
jazz.
He's a scene stealer. for
I was
sure.
in high school at the time. I had a high school girlfriend who was like a big theater person, and she knew the show before we went in. It's 2002, and so she took me, and it was immediately I was like, "Oh, dude, he's awesome." It's also Mr. Cellophane is. He was
Oh my
nominated for
gosh.
Best Supporting, right? For that, yeah.
Absolutely.
Anyway, I'm all
As you
over the
should have
place
been.
here because the plot is stunningly simple.
Yeah.
It's the details that make this work. Because, like, here's the thing. Again, I will harp on this one more time, and then I'll never do it again until the next time I do it. I like these mid-range movies. I mean, it made $1 billion, which is why we're talking about it. But there used to be these kinds of in-between movies with good casts that were rom-coms or lighthearted comedies that everyone would see. But now they're just relegated to Netflix. And the second you relegate something to Netflix or to Lifetime, you don't get actors anymore. And this works because everyone in it can act. And that's why this is charming as opposed to a bad, like, again, just imagine C-grade actors doing this. There's no movie here.
Yeah, right.
Like there's nothing here. Like you really could just get, at the time it was Beverly Hills 90210. Like if you get someone like Melrose Place actors, Beverly Hills 90210 actors,
So if
you've
you-
forgotten it the next day, and it's terrible.
So you're telling me if we got like
Tori Spelling is the lead.
David Hasselhoff, that's what I was going to say.
If it was Hasselhoff and Tori Spelling,
Yeah.
you're cringing, but that's what it is, right? Because this
This could have been way worse. Yeah,
That's right,
yeah.
right? Or the actress is what? It's the 90s. At the time,
Molly Ringwald was originally cast.
Really?
Yes. Molly Ringwald was originally offered the role at first.
She would have been fine.
I
though.
think that would have worked.
Yeah, but she didn't like it because it was originally titled 3000
Right, which is terrible.
which is
It
was originally titled 3000 because that's how much he offers her for the week. And because
I was thinking Clerks. That's how many dicks she sucked on the way to the parking lot.
and this was a much darker script.
Easy to go that way.
In the original ending, Vivian dies.
Damn.
From drugs and has drugs and like all this and
Oh my God.
Yeah, and like he leaves her on the side of the road. Like it is not a
That's more
happy
like
ending.
like what I would expect from
Right.
this kind of movie.
Yeah.
What's the
but
movie?
Molly didn't like the dark ending and she wanted a little more wholesome look. She didn't want to be a prostitute.
Yeah.
So
But that's also her image, right?
Right,
Like,
exactly. What were you going to say, Nick? I'm sorry.
Oh, I was going to say, what was the Travolta movie where he be Urban Cowboy? Because Midnight Cowboy is... Well, I'm just like thinking, because that's what prostitute movies were. Like the tragic ending.
Right.
Right? Like Ratso Rizzo dying on that bus at the end of Midnight Cowboy. Like, that's what you expect. And so the fact that, like, Kit ends up okay at the end. You're just like...
She's like, gonna get her a job, you know?
She's like a secretary, just like a gum-chewing secretary at the end. Like,
I think this is the only prostitute movie I've watched.
Well,
because you guys were naming things that I was like, no.
Have you seen Leaving Las Vegas? That's the other kind of with Elizabeth Shue. That's the other kind of prostitute with a heart of gold movie.
No.
That was, I mean, all the movies we're mentioning are good movies.
Right.
Yeah.
Even Boogie Nights, he has a turn where he becomes a male prostitute.
Monster is not really a prostitute movie.
Okay.
It's about a serial killer.
Okay.
She just happens to be a prostitute.
That's how she gets her. That's how she gets her.
Warnos.
Warnos, right? America's top female serial killer.
Wow. Okay. Okay.
But yes, that's how she finds her victims. The Johns are her victims.
Interesting.
But anyway, so does someone want to give us the plot?
Sure. So Richard Gere plays. His name is Edward Lewis. He plays Edward. Edward is a powerful corporate raider, which you kind of alluded to, Nick, which is when you take companies and kind of sell them different departments to make money, kind of break them down. And Edward's girlfriend breaks up with him. So heartbroken and pissed off, I guess he leaves a business party and takes his lawyer, the sports car, who is George Costanza, we'll talk about. But anyway, he takes his sports car and drives to the red light district of Hollywood Boulevard, and he meets a prostitute named Vivian. He meets a lovely woman named Vivian, and he takes her home and to the hotel, and he decides to hire her to pose as his girlfriend during a week-long series of business events and meetings and stuff.
Good plan.
Yeah. So he offers her $3,000 and a new wardrobe. So
no, you're right. Like, I think one of the funniest satire movies that has come out in the last 20 years is like a movie, and it just is Princess Unikitty coming out like, business, because that's kind of what it is. Like, the old man doesn't want to sell the company for business, and then he's like, but if I buy the company, I'm going to sell it off for business, and then it's business. Yeah. Like, I mean, obviously it's not the plot that matters. It's a rom-com. We're supposed to be falling in love with her, because it's also kind of country mouse, city mouse thing. Yep. It's like a snobs versus slobs kind of thing, but like, that's all that's going on. But in the background, like, they're selling like the toy store out from underneath the old man, which is just, it's so, because there's business happening. Like, and Richard Gere proves to be good at business because he knows big words and says business words. Like, it's the one part of the script where they didn't care, which is totally fine. We don't have to care about business.
We're not here to see business.
But all we know is that Richard Gere looks great in that suit. And that's kind of the end of the sentence, which is awesome.
Yeah, because I too, when I have a stressful day, I have the urge to drive straight down to the red light district of Hollywood. That's my first instinct as well. Which
we got to get a bit, like, for a second. Obviously, it's, as we're recording it, is winter. When this comes out, it's different time in the winter. But he leaves this afternoon tea party in the middle of the day, and he goes from the Hollywood Hills down to Burbank, and it's pitch black. Night has fallen because
daylight savings.
That's right.
You mentioned
the moon is
this
showing
is
up.
3:30. It's pitch
days.
black outside right now.
Why does he stop? He stops for directions and a blowjob, right?
I believe so, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because he's looking for his hotel. He's staying at a fancy hotel downtown, and he's gotten lost because he's just stolen a car, but doesn't know where he actually is.
Yeah.
Because he's actually an East Coast guy, and he's just visiting the West Coast.
It's like New York.
Right. And so his plan is, in a time before cell phones or even MapQuest, he is going to steal his buddy's car and pick up a prostitute with a heart of gold.
And Julia's kind of showing off her body on the car a little bit. And so I think part of him is like, you know what? I just got broken up with. I'm gonna have some fun tonight.
And she knows the car, which is kind of that first step. Like, if anyone, how do I even put this? This movie is a rom-com, so the structure of it doesn't super matter, right? It's supposed to be a relationship drama in 3 acts, and it's not even 3 acts. It's kind of 2.5, but they do a great job of characterizing her, right? We don't know her backstory at first, but she knows about cars. And like you said, she shows off her body, but it's not like the standard, again, cleavagey model leaning in. It's that she's standing on top of the car showing off her abs, which is such, again, it's, I don't know what the script said, but I imagine it's Julia Roberts saying, how do I look sexy? Here's how I'm going to do this, because it feels like an actress's choice. Everything here is designed to be attractive, but not lustful in that weird way. And I think they do a good
Teeters
job.
the line between, I guess when I first watched this movie, it was a little uncomfortable because I didn't know. I only saw this on TBS, so beginning, middle, and end.
Same.
You know
Same.
what I mean?
In fact, there were scenes that I did not remember because I had only
so
really
why
ever
is she
seen the
torn-
movie on TV.
Right. It's like, why is she twirling all her hair in the middle of the room like that? Oh. So, but no, I can definitely, from the get-go, I can see that even the two characters are like, I wouldn't say, would you say fish out of water in their own sphere? Because she's uncomfortable, not necessarily with what she's doing, but she knows like she's meant for something else.
No, what I was going to say, you're hitting the nail on the head because he's also very
He's
uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It's just different facades.
Yeah.
She gets away with it by being cute and playful, as we see with her flirting with the people in the elevator.
Mm-hmm.
He gets away with it by being confident and like not hyper masculine, but he's playing a role of being the 80s guy. Like he is
Fake it till you make
Reaganomics.
it.
A lot of hand on hip for him.
And him sticking out his chest, right?
Yeah.
Like it's the kind of
A little
confident...
turn away with the coat. Like, business.
It's something harder now because men don't wear suits.
Business
like you
wear.
put on that suit and they even have to give Jason Alexander a coat that doesn't quite fit right, so he doesn't look as good as Richard Gere. Because a man in a suit looks good, and he looks phenomenal in this.
Dampered.
He does. It's funny because this is Garry Marshall, who 3 years ago made it's a rom-com that just doesn't sit well, which is Overboard. Have you seen Overboard?
Yes.
I love Overboard.
Is that
But
with
the
Adam
premise
Sandler?
is so weird. A heavily concussed woman who doesn't know who she is. You're my wife now, and I'm going to trick people. And she wakes up like, I guess I'm your wife now. That's much more problematic. I'm just saying, like, that's kind of where this could be. And they avoid it and almost make, like, an Academy picture.
I will say there were things about it that bothered me. Like Richard Gere is so critical of her at every turn. Like the way she acts, the way she says, and he'll make these little like remarks, and I'm just like, sit down, Richard Gere.
Or he like runs into the bathroom when she's flossing to like
Yeah,
make
yeah,
sure,
like even control like.
Yeah. I mean,
he's
No
a
drugs
terrible
in my
boyfriend.
hotel.
he's. How does one act when you buy a girlfriend?
I don't.
Yeah,
I guess that's true. I
That's
guess
true.
he paid for
that's true.
a certain
Yeah.
level of.
They're not in a relationship, but I don't know. I can see the snarky remarks. No, I get you. Like, don't say that. Like, you're not a dick, but like, it was almost he was forcing himself to be assertive. Because like this person's gonna do whatever I say to a degree,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
also
yeah, yeah.
like it
I feel
balanced.
that.
can
I
say,
feel
yeah,
that. Like
yeah,
maybe
yeah, yeah.
he's trying it out. Like he wouldn't actually
Do
be
that
that,
too,
way.
yeah.
But he's doing it to her because he's paid for it.
Wants to be something different from his past, previous relationships. So
He's the boss for the week.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
but also we don't really get why they broke up. But he's
Right.
bossing around his ex, like she's like you, blah, 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 blah. Like she's just a screaming voice at the end of the phone,
Yeah.
right? So there's also that too, like because she's also trying to humanize him because he has an arc despite himself.
Yeah. Well, they've said things like at one point when she goes to the horsey race, they say she's one of Edward's girls, one of his girls.
Right.
So like he has a history of being like a womanizer, having lots of ladies. So he obviously doesn't ever get to like a level of depth with someone.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I thought it was really telling when, I forget exactly who talks to him, but when his girlfriend breaks up with him and he goes up to his ex-wife, remember at the beginning, and he goes, was I never there for you? Were you friends with my secretary? And she goes, Your secretary was my maid of honor.
Yeah, that's a good. That's a
Like-
solid line.
There's a lot of good one-liners
that's
in
a
this
solid
movie
line.
that I really like.
Because I think that really shows the kind of man
Yeah.
he was. So neglectful, and she had like one of his secretary becomes one of her best friends. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, and the whole thing is that he's like this kind of Bruce Wayne-esque automaton. Like, he doesn't make human connections, right? But that's the whole point, right? Like, and so like that's why we don't even see the girlfriend at the beginning, which I think is a good move, because like then he is distant from everyone.
A real person.
And his best friend is like technically just his attorney, right? Like, and there's that too.
Textbook narcissist, though.
Meanwhile, we see her, who is the prostitute, the throwaway person, right? And she has all these human connections because I guess in that world you do need connections. And she has her friend, but also when she finds out someone has died, as we're introduced to Simpsons alum Hank Azaria, who's the detective.
yeah.
Oh, and by the way, I forget, I was listening to an episode, I think, of Last Podcast on the Left, and they were talking about how like one of the hosts' mom came to visit from Florida. And that they really do this. Like, tourists are like, oh, I heard there was an accident. Let's go take pictures of the crime scene. And so all these tourists are taking pictures of a murder scene.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Which is just amazing.
Yeah.
But, like, she has this network of people that she knows, and he has no one. He's in this beautiful place and has no connections. And so he's buying friendship as well as sex, which, you know, whatever. The sex part is kind of secondary here, which is funny.
Yeah.
I know some weird folks that like just spend their money on nothing, meaningless, like let's buy everyone shots, that kind of thing. Am I getting too? Do I need to have more alcohol to talk about prostitution?
I was referencing myself.
Oh,
Buying
He was saying
friends
he was
with
buying
alcohol.
you drinks.
Oh. Oh, hello.
Nothing like explaining a joke, right?
I like how everybody.
like, oh, I'm good, thanks, bud.
She's keeping up.
No, my limit's 9, by the way. Wink. Okay, so yeah, that's my limit. There's a comedian I listen to. His name is Michael Che. He does
Michael Che's
SNL,
great.
yeah. And he was just like, he said he tested something. He was like, I wanted to see how many drinks does it make to me to like think of like this man's attractive. So he like let a man buy him 9 drinks, and then he's like, all right, after 9, do I find you attractive? Yep. All right, my limit's 9. I gotta go. So I think it's so yeah. Mine's 8. Thank you. So yeah.
He's had 2.
Yeah.
That's right.
2. 1. It was a double. So yeah.
So after that first night of weird passions, we learn a few things. First, that he's afraid of heights, which will become important at the end.
Yes.
Because he's bought the penthouse. Why? Because it's the most expensive. He doesn't
But
like
he
the
doesn't
balcony.
look out. Yeah.
Also, that it's this kind of like this Milken-esque, like he never sleeps. He's just like there. And again, he's wearing a gorgeous 3-piece suit. And it's like midnight. And he's just like taking off his jacket. He's in his vest doing spreadsheets.
Yeah.
Like, and she's like, you know, you purchased a prostitute. You want... I do like her gold condom, which is just... There's a joke here. Like, she takes out, like, this rainbow of condoms out of her knee-high boots. And then she has... And then, Mario, we've got the gold coin. Like, it's just... It's Robusto. That's a solid joke.
This is really well-written script, I feel. The dialogue is really pretty great.
But also, like, just the prop work. Like she has this wig on that makes it, like... It reminded me of like The Fifth Element or something. Like it's kind of a bowl cut, it's short, and I'm like, you know, I just know you, Julia Roberts, for the flowing red hair.
But even when she takes it off, though, that's when, it's almost like when a person like those teen movies in the day. It's like she's all that.
Yeah.
She's going on the staircase and then, like that. Even when she takes, that's her scene taking off the wig. And I'm like, okay.
She took off her glasses and now she's beautiful.
Yeah,
right
yeah.
now.
She was always beautiful. Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, at the time, Richard Gere was dating Cindy Crawford.
Ooh, was he a player back in the day?
He was Richard Gere.
Oh,
He's
enough
a
said.
player now. The man's probably in his 70s. He's a good-looking dude.
Still got. I mean, Al Pacino just had a kid, and he's like 93. Did I mix up old
Come
people?
out of a 45-year-old?
Same with Robert De Niro.
Yeah, I'm serious.
But I also like in that same scene that you're talking about, Nick, where she's like, you know, it used to bother me, but now it's just like robotic. She's like, wait, but not with you.
Yeah.
Like she realizes
so
what she
big.
said.
Oh my God.
Yeah, not.
Yeah, Yeah, she's like, I'm just like a robot. I just do what I need to do.
Yeah,
Except
exactly.
with you.
But not with you, of course. Oh, baby, oh, baby. That made me laugh.
There's nothing. Which, again, it's Garry Marshall. He's a good director. But that's such a smart scene. Just because, like, again, we've seen 1,000 rom-coms where it's just, like, the height of passion. And you're just like, no. And she's having fun. And it's good.
I mean, did she have like olives for dinner the night before at the bar? So that's the one that speaks to me.
Oh, yeah,
her
they're
and
at
homegirl.
this- Go ahead.
No, they're at this club or whatever, and I guess they're talking, and then she gets a napkin and the garnishes the the olives, the oranges, and the nuts and such. And she's just like, it's like, damn.
Yeah, they're living in like this flop house where they're skipping out on rent. And
Right.
They don't have food, so they're eating the garnishes for cocktails at
Yeah.
a terrible bar. Like it's next to where the girl's murdered, but it's still open. And
Yeah, somebody was murdered next door, and that's where the tourists are taking pictures. And
yeah,
I mean, I've eaten a cup of olives. It's filling.
well, yeah, but you didn't eat them out of the room
Oh, that's
temperature
right.
tray next to a martini
no,
bar.
Absolutely
Like,
not.
And
Hepatitis gold.
that's how you keep your prostitute figure.
that's right.
A cigarette and an olive. No.
I mean, it was the 90s.
He's a French prostitute.
I'm a classy lady. Thank you.
Nice.
Cigarette
So
with
I
the
think
pinky out.
they end up having sex, but they don't even show it.
No, they
Which
do
again,
not.
I think,
Hair
like
spinning.
to your point, I think that part is kind of secondary.
Well, the first night, let me think. The first night,
They don't-
she turns on
I Love Lucy.
I Love Lucy, and is watching it.
And he's watching her
He's
watch.
And she's just like laughing and whatever, and then she sees him. I mean,
Watching
it's
her.
it's nicely written. Like it's a hot scene, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
what I like the way that scene was done, tastefully, subtly. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was good.
Yeah, and what's interesting about it is the power dynamics, right? Because you don't really get the idea of, I mean, it's now a 30-year-old movie, so we know where it's going to go, but the idea of like who's in charge of this scene. Is it her? It's like, is it her being powerful or not? He orders nice food, but it's kind of for him, kind of not. There's weirdness because he orders champagne, but he doesn't drink, which is strange.
Yeah.
Like, there's kind of like, is he going to
Yeah.
drug her? Like, and again, not the actor, but like there's a Bateman kind of like American Psycho-ness to that scene, right? Where he's just like, I want to watch you get drunk, which is, she knows better then, because then she goes and flosses her teeth, which is also strange. But
that's their kinks. For real.
That's interesting that you said that about the power dynamic, though, because it reminded me of Secretary.
yeah,
Like, with that, if you haven't seen it, I'm not sure if I should tell you if you should watch it. It's a good movie.
Yeah.
it's just a lot.
It's a lot.
Everything's turned up, right?
Okay.
But it has that same sense of like suspense and the power play and all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and what's also interesting is we also don't get like a, God, what are those movies called? The Poison Ivy movies, where it's about the first one's got Drew Barrymore in it and Tom Skerritt and Leo DiCaprio, but like it's this idea of them like,
What movie's that?
it's called Poison Ivy.
Oh, okay. I think you said like a Poison Ivy like movie.
No, but there's a series of them.
Okay.
But like it's about a woman trying to seduce a wealthier man to then take advantage of him.
Is that a Batman villain?
Yes, but not
okay.
related.
It is.
Oh,
That's why I got confused. I'm like, what?
No, it's literally called Poison Ivy.
Yeah, the idea is that he is a pillar in the community, and the ivy climbs up and then kills it off.
I thought it was
No,
We were on the same
I'm with
page. Yeah. I'm like,
and then Bruce Wayne shows up, and it's a different thing.
it makes
But
sense.
it's about the idea of this like woman who pretends to be like, oh, you have to tell me
to
what
not
to do,
have the power.
and then
Yeah.
takes advantage and seizes the opportunity. You know, and so in this situation, that's why it's interesting. She is honestly enjoying having the food, but aware of her place, because more than once earlier she tries to undress him. He's like, no, this is really just about you bathing, or whatever.
Yep.
I do like the scene the next morning where she's in the tub with the Walkman.
That's my favorite scene. No, for real, that's my favorite scene.
It's fun because It's the Britney Spears song. I'm just Christina Aguilera song. I'm just a girl. Like there's just her enjoying herself.
I think it's when you go back, it's really good acting because when you talk about him watching her watching TV, because like there's a lot of. That's what I don't know.
Not a lot of dialogue.
Not a lot of dialogue.
Yeah.
But just looking at them, because some people I just have fun, do this, and it's enjoyable, and it puts a smile on your face. Because this could have been really awkward. You know what I mean?
It's their chemistry that makes it work.
Absolutely. And it's Julia Roberts. You know what I mean? Like
it's Richard Gere.
I see where you're coming from, and I'm sure you see where I'm coming from, but it's truly over. And as we were talking about this, and it made so much money. Like, okay, like going to the movies, like I was watching old episodes of Seinfeld, and like going to the movies was so like, you know what I mean? Nowadays, it's not so much, but like to get a couple's movie, and there was some like really crazy films out there at the time. And so I can see why this movie made so much money. It was for the ladies because it's a romance story, but also you get to see Julia Roberts just, and also Richard Gere, out here. So I can see that,
Well, but to wit, it's good casting because now children sit down because Grandpa's going to speak. But this is the age of the supermodel and things, right? Like this is the beginning of your Cindy Crawfords, of
your Cameron Diaz's.
Well, but Cameron Diaz at least can act. We're talking about just beautiful women in things for no reason. Like we have a Bond movie in 1997 where a woman plays Christmas Jones.
What's her name?
She goes, Christmas came. I thought Christmas only came once a year. And you're like, okay, fine. But like,
Denise Richards.
Yes, it is
Denise Richards. That's right. I just watched Good Burger and she was in it, so it was just like, yeah.
Well, and then Tyra Banks. Like, you just have these actresses who just could be pretty. I mean, and to be fair, Julia Roberts' smile is technically a special effect. Like, because she has more teeth.
Smile. She
got more teeth
smile.
than Giada De Laurentiis.
Yeah.
But like, she lights up the frame because she's just charming, right? Like. And like they could have slotted in Pamela Anderson's a little bit younger than this, right? But like that would be Baywatch. That would be like Tool Time. Like that's where she was. They could have done that. They didn't. And this movie is better for it. It makes it more timeless, right? Again, there's no David Hasselhoff in here trying to pick up one of like.
That's her movie.
And I think they're trying to change it up. Like to your point earlier, Nora, we couldn't talk about other prostitute movies. There weren't too many. So I think they are trying to change out the typical rom-com story.
And it worked. It could have been a huge hit and miss, and it worked. Yes.
Yeah.
And scene.
No, it's like this is the morning after.
I don't know. Yeah, the morning after. That's when he propositions her to stay with him for the week. And they have a little bit of a back and forth about the price.
I love that scene.
And
Prince with kiss.
Yeah.
So cute. They stripped her hair, apparently. The bubble bath stripped the color in her hair because they dyed her hair red for this movie, right?
Yeah.
So they apparently, I was reading behind the scenes, they had to do an emergency, like 2 a.m, re-dye job.
Was this the beginning of her red hair? Because I thought she
always had red hair.
For this movie.
Well, okay, so she has light brown hair, and they make it like that vivid red.
Yeah.
But yes, then the next morning is that whole he propositions her for the week.
So this is where her character development kind of starts because he wants her to have a cocktail dress because he has to go to meet whatever the guy from Trading Spaces. I forget his name. Ralph Bellamy is the actor, I think. And so she goes out to Rodeo Drive and they look at her like she is a prostitute with a lot of money. Which again, it's the slobs versus snobs thing. But then my hero shows up, one of my favorite actors, Hector Elizondo.
Yes.
Who, you know what, man? Thompson, I think is his name in it. But like he is one of my favorite character actors.
He's fantastic.
He shows up. He helps her out. He shows her which fucking fork to use, which is such a great scene.
Yep. And connects her with Janet.
Yeah.
Janet.
But he also is like, she has money, and it's this kind of like in LA, you need the money and the power and all the the Montoya shit, and so he's the one who protects her. which only she knows because Richard Gere doesn't know his name. Mm-hmm. And that's also the power dynamic, which is she needs to expand her circle of friends. He doesn't give a shit because he's a corporate raider. And so they're humanizing each other.
You are making this movie so deep. I love it.
Well, it's because they thought about this.
No. I agree. And that was interesting to me because as a kid, as young as, anybody could be watching this movie, I thought that it was going to be Richard Gere that went shopping with her, that took her shopping and was in your face, but it wasn't.
Well, I can see men in that era not do that. You know what I mean? They're just
yeah.
Because I remember as a kid in the 90s, late 90s, but seeing it's just crazy how people would just leave home with a pager or without nothing on, they expect them to be back after supper. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. So I wouldn't imagine it was. I think it was still at that era where guys were just guys and they didn't do shopping and things like that, and hence why. And I just want to talk about the Hector, Elizondo. It just instantly reminded me of Princess. Not Princess Bride. Ginobili.
Princess Diary.
Princess Diary. Because he basically does the same thing.
Nora and I were doing a dance of agreement.
We're just with our hands flapping. We knew what he was Ginobili. Yeah. But that was kind of just knowing what he did for the Princess Diary, and it kind of was you've come a long way. Not really, but
it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love too the famous scene after that when he helps her shop and she goes back to the store.
She says, "You wouldn't help me yesterday."
Yeah. You work at commission, right? Huge mistake.
Yeah,
huge mistake. Big mistake.
And the way she says it is such perfected.
I've said that a lot. Big mistake. Big mistake on people.
Huge
mistake. Huge mistake.
That's where Trump got it.
Yeah. He's a big fan of Pretty Woman.
Mm-hmm. And Legally Blonde. Yeah.
That's how he gets all of his wives.
Yeah.
Showing. No, I will also just add here too. It's the unnecessary white guy confidence that comes into play too, because it's just
tell me more.
Well, but it is. It's she comes in, she doesn't know what to do, and then later she just goes, huge mistake, right? It's that she gains the confidence, and I
had the what's your badge number vibes when she said that. Yeah,
I mean, it is slightly Karen. I will say, my dad is a man who matters. I don't, and so when I've been meeting ambassadors, nobility, it's a matter of being my dad's look, just shake their hand and make eye contact.
Yeah,
it's just again, white guy confidence. And for her, it's she is someone who is the forgotten bottom. She is a prostitute, and now they're no, you matter, here's how you do this. And it's just her, and the camera does a pan it's Mission Impossible, and it pans back and there's all these fucking forks, and he's you work outwards to in, that's the salad fork. And when she goes to the actual dinner, and she's where's the salad fork?
They didn't have this fork.
I need the fork. And then when she stabs the wine steward to death, that's a really important scene for her development.
I actually related to her a lot. This is kind of weird. You might want to know.
That transition is what the fuck?
No, I set up a joke and she's taking it home.
No, not to that. It was unrelated.
Those
I relate to her a lot because I am from a small town in Alabama. Not quite the country, but country enough. My husband is from here.
Big city.
The big city. No, my 6-year-old actually says, "That's the big city, Mommy." And I'm oh my God, did I do that? That's the big city. So I one thing that comes to mind is at our wedding, apparently when you hold someone's arm, when the girl holds the guy's arm, you're supposed to place your hand on the elbow.
You talking about when they're walking down the aisle, or just
when you leave
process.
When you leave the aisle. So I hooked hooked arms with him.
And you're gonna do a jig?
Come on! We're leaving, and so he has always made fun of me for that and mentioned that, and I'm I don't freaking know. When would I have learned that?
Yeah.
We don't have cotillion.
Cotillion.
Waste of money.
I don't know that I'm supposed so
I don't know which fork.
Yeah, I found myself relating to her. I'm sorry, I'm getting loud.
My wife is the same way. Don't worry.
I found myself relating to her so much, and that's why I think I picked up on him doing these little like nitpicks, because like, how would she know? These things?
Yeah, exactly.
My favorite though is the old guy, because he smells it immediately, but he doesn't say anything.
Yeah, he's
like
chill.
she's nervous about like she doesn't even want to eat in front of people, and
Also,
then
they gave her escargot, which
but at least what he does is he goes down and picks it up with his hands, like it's okay.
Yeah.
That's the important thing, right? Like, because again,
Yeah.
like the idea, and again, I've worked in a restaurant as a barback. Like, I know this, like, which one's the wine glass versus the water glass. And if you're just looking and have no idea, it's the Blues Brothers scene. You hold up the big one, you're like, fill her up, asshole. Like, you just play the game. And she is so nervous she doesn't even want to eat in front of these people.
yeah.
It's a good choice.
And he makes the a-hole move of ordering her escargot.
Right.
Like that is him making a statement to be like,
Ordering.
I
For you,
I want to make you feel uncomfortable.
I interpreted that differently. No, my interpretation is that's what the end result of the scene was, but it was a power move to the other business people.
Right.
And he,
Yeah.
didn't, and he didn't think about her first.
Right.
Oh, I don't know. Okay, maybe.
Right,
It's
like,
a
'cause
controlling moves. Like we're gonna have this.
Right, and then you make eye contact with the person, knowing that some people will refuse to do
And
this.
she's like,
Because she's the eye candy. He doesn't care about her yet.
yeah.
This is the first time, because this is the first night he's showing her off.
Business.
And she looks spectacular in the dress, which then we smash cut to an erotic scene. Like, right? Because that's where she's wearing, because that's when he's playing piano, and she's
piano.
wearing the black lacy,
well,
like, teddy.
because I think we need to explain though. So she makes the human connection at the dinner, which he can't do. The dinner didn't go well though, right? Because they don't want to like do what he.
He doesn't want the business.
Yeah.
But
So-
there's business.
Yeah. It's business and the business, but
The
the business didn't go
business.
well.
Y'all
So
forgot about the-
he
y'all forgot
is
about the business.
upset, and he doesn't come up, and he's downstairs playing piano, and she's looking for him, and the bellboy, I guess, is like, he's over here. Look, he's in this empty bar playing piano, and then we have an erotic scene, which I do not remember from my
She
childhood.
kind of tried. She like
'Cause that's-
she was kind of trying to cheer him up, like
And then he bangs her on a piano.
right.
Yeah.
Which, by the by,
This wasn't in my version.
because you can cut
Wait,
it
what?
out so easily.
No, so I got it from Hulu, who records it on network.
Yeah, it's not in the TV.
I
edit.
got it on, no, I don't remember it from when I was younger either, but I got it on Amazon. I bought
rented
it, and
it
I
on
had to buy it
Amazon.
freaking twice, because you get the 48-hour
Oh no.
rental, and I didn't watch it in 48 hours. Like, I watched half of it and had to pay twice.
Damn.
It's the worst.
I mean, I sat down and watched this because I care about this show.
Look,
No, I watched it, but it was on Hulu.
Joking, guys.
The
We're all
commercials.
Fine. We're literally all fine here.
yeah, there's a very steamy piano scene. She
Damn.
sits down on the piano.
Yeah.
Like she's gonna
That's
sing
heavy.
or something, and then
That's not what happens.
no,
That's
she
actually a
arches her
bucket
back and she has a teddy on, and
Yeah.
it's very attractive.
I just remember from
If I learned anything from 10 Things I Hate About You, is that when you wear if you own a black lace bra, it's because you want someone to see it, and she wanted him to see it.
oh god.
But then he takes her to the opera, and
Just
it's
remind me of the
La
story.
Traviata, which is about a man that falls in love with a prostitute.
It is. It is.
I didn't
that was
recall which play it was.
Yeah.
I will also
It's a
say, speaking
Traviata
of 10
opera.
Things I Hate About You,
It
just
wasn't
for half a
Oedipus.
second, just for half a second, the next store he takes her to, Larry Miller, the guy who plays the dad from 10 Things,
Yep.
is the
Absolutely. The sales- yep.
and Larry Miller is one of my favorite
Hold on.
character
Oh, he's
actors.
great.
He's just at this point he's like 25.
But
as
he
opposed,
was also the hairdresser in The Princess Diary.
he is.
Yo,
Dude.
Princess Diary is
This for kids? Do you
This
need
for
to know?
kids, so you just blew your mind.
Do you need
But
to
no,
know?
I love. He goes, well, what obscene amount of money are we talking about? Are we talking?
Oh yeah, he's like, or is it just obscene, or is
Or-
it like?
Well, this is before the scene where she goes back.
Yeah.
But at one point, she goes to one of his assistant, goes, "I like that tie," and literally buys the tie.
Takes the
off.
tie off. She's like, Edward would love that.
Oh god, that is so good. It's and so I was telling my wife and I were talking about this, and we were talking about actresses from this era that we confuse with each other. And in this scene in particular, she reminds me, younger actress who comes later, but like of an Anne Hathaway type, with her hair done up in the hat and everything. Like, it's that kind of like female lead confidence in a rom-com, which is just phenomenal. I love it. Because at the end, she's like tells off the lady, she gets home, she throws her hat, and she's like, she feels like she's made it. And Jason Alexander is talking about business. And that's where the movie comes back around.
This movie, Pretty Woman, became so popular. Elvis Costello. I mean, we were even playing some earlier. There's tons of covers of this. There's even an Indian cover.
Pop
and a
rock,
punk band
Indian cover. Yeah.
Yeah. It's good music.
I really hated Costanza in this movie.
Yeah, George Costanza sucks in this movie.
He does suck in this movie.
And maybe he's such a good actor that we hate him.
The late great Jason. No, he's still.
He's done.
No.
Oh my God!
The second I said it, I
Kramer
looked at
didn't.
Noah.
He done. Oh God.
No,
Yeah.
he's an attempted rapist in this
In this
movie.
movie,
It's
yeah.
problematic. He's problematic.
And that was, I was just like,
And Jason Alexander here. Two things. First, this is the year Seinfeld is made, so it probably was filmed before it, right? But he was mostly a theater guy, and he still is.
yeah.
So if you want to see him, watch him on Broadway when you're in town.
or watch A Hunchback of Notre Dame. He plays a gargoyle.
He does.
Amazing voice, by the way.
Yeah, just fly in on a date, go see. I think you actually did that one time, though, right?
That's
I was
her thing.
referring to what they did in Pretty Woman, but I think you did.
She did.
A couple times we've done that.
She did.
I'm spoiled.
Friend?
Well, no, she flew into
Oh,
New York.
I was saying
Seinfeld?
so. I will explain
Inside jokes.
my joke. I'm sorry.
You just need more friends.
So
Yeah.
I was just saying, like in the movie, he flies her in to see a play.
Okay,
like-
I thought we were talking about her life, and I was just, what happened?
Yeah, well,
She's
no,
like,
she's
she
also
did
done
that.
that. That's all.
Oh, okay. That's what's up.
No, I was
But
just.
they love plays, so
I was cutting back to Jason Alexander because this is the scene at the racetrack, or not the racetrack, or whatever, polo, whatever.
Yeah.
No,
nonsense.
it feels
Club,
like
yeah.
the racetrack.
It's a
It
horsey
reminded me
race.
of My Fair Lady when she's like,
Yes.
woo, woo, woo.
Well, because she's wearing the hat and everything.
and she has the iconic brown and white polka dot dress, which I remember my mom. So my mom is like very slim, had red curly hair. I think she always kind of likened herself to Julia Roberts, and so she wanted the brown polka dot dress that she wore
Yes.
in those scenes.
I have to go watch this.
My favorite is there's another woman who I believe is one of Richard Gere's exes, perhaps, but wearing the same dress inversed. Right, she's wearing a white dress with brown
really?
spots.
Yeah.
But this is the important scene where Jason Alexander figures everything out, right? Because
Yeah.
she goes over
Right.
and talks to one of the jockeys, I guess. I don't know. This is rich people nonsense
I
that I don't
think it
understand.
was the guy from the dinner before. It was the younger guy from the dinner, and she's making a business connection.
business.
Trying to
Business.
she's actually going to talk to the guy from dinner, and he puts that together, and he's like, why would she go talk to him? Oh, which
Right.
I don't put together. I don't understand, but that's what I think was happening.
To me, in my head, it felt like a scenes deleted kind of moment. Like there was something else, like a moment where they walked, where Richard Gere storms off and the son chases him, and like her and Julia Roberts, like they have a moment, not a moment, just he
Some
calms,
kind of
calms her down, and Jason Alexander misinterprets it when they meet up later. He goes, "We still cool." But at the same time, we don't know, the movie doesn't know, and it adds tension.
Yeah.
And at this point, Richard Gere just goes, "Oh, she doesn't matter, she's a prostitute," which is a lot for a movie starting its third act, right?
Yeah.
Because this is where the movie turns, because he's like, "I'm Richard Gere, and I'm paying you to be a prostitute and my girlfriend," which, you know, is a lot. And then he's like, "Well, I can just leave because you're paying me and I'm a prostitute and your girlfriend." Right? Like, that's what's happening. And then she asks for her payment. And he throws money at her, which is insulting.
And then she doesn't take.
Yeah.
But she does take her clothes, which are probably worth more than $3,000 if we've seen the previous establishment scene. And he's like, "Oh, the money. Awesome." Right? Like, and this is where the movie turns.
Yeah, wasn't he supposed to go back to? He ends up going back to the East Coast, or something happens. I'm trying to remember. Or am I getting that confused?
No.
I think they have.
Yeah.
Well, they only have a week together.
Right,
so
right,
I think
right.
It's the next to last day, and that's when that happens. And he's
Right.
like, "Please, just stay." You know, he chases her out. He left the money. He sees that she didn't take the money, and he's like, "Oh crap, she actually cares about me."
And the reason you're confused here is that this is where they fly out to see the opera. This is where the flight scene is.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah.
And
And
the-
he says, "What does he say about the opera?" He's like, "They say everybody reacts strongly." What does he say?
No, it's that. It's that everyone they either love it or they hate it or something like that.
But if it doesn't touch you the first time, it'll never reach your soul or something like that.
And then
Anyway, she cried.
She cries, and then they're playing like vaguely sexy chess after that, right? Because like
That's what you do.
I don't know that I've ever played that.
Sexy chess or chess?
I've never played sexy chess before.
I mean, but like she's wearing an opera gown, like she
Yeah,
looks
yeah.
gorgeous, and he's in another like
And that's when she says, "Take the day off tomorrow,"
right,
which is weird for him.
Right.
yeah,
Business.
it's business.
Business.
Right.
Business.
No business for him.
Business for
And
him.
we established now that she's in charge. This is Film Optics 101 because they're wherever in Manhattan, and there's a fountain, and then they go to the park, right? And she's walking on the fountain, and he's not, so she's above him, right? So we established that now she's in charge. It's Gary Marshall,
love it.
classic filmmaking. That's right.
Metaphor.
She makes him put his feet in the grass.
He takes the socks off, which this is nothing. This means nothing. But if you ever want a laugh, former President Richard Nixon went to the beach in a full 3-piece suit, and so you can just watch him wearing his Oxford wingtips and walking in the sand, looking very unhappy.
He
And
looks so happy. What are you talking about?
Great.
But that's what this reminds me of, because like we see her like, oh, this is so much fun, and he's like, I'm wearing socks, and then they take off the
This
socks.
is uncomfortable.
Business. No.
And they're also getting close at this point because he falls asleep reading after getting like chili from a diner, and she's wearing a satin nightie, but like it's. Then they start making out while he's asleep, which is a lot.
And she doesn't kiss on the
She
lips.
doesn't. That's the big part of that.
We
is that-
forgot about that.
It
It was important.
She's established that she never.
kissing.
That's her one rule is that she doesn't kiss. She on the lips.
And she kissed him
Anywhere else,
on
and
the
she
lips.
does. So that's kind of showing that. Okay, this is no longer a business relationship. They're falling in love.
And then as they're I guess she thinks he's asleep. I don't know. But she says, "I love you," and he's like, "Ooh."
Well, yeah, and this is where we actually get the closest to like an actual sex scene, right?
Yeah.
Well, because and it's interesting because it's shot very.
It reminded me of the sex scene in The Room, where it's like shot from behind a screen.
Yes, and I think it's important here because they actually. I mean, I guess she gets mostly naked, but we don't see it because like this weird. I mean, it was 1990. It's like this kind of vaguely Asian patterned thing.
Yeah.
So we see them undressing through it, but we don't actually see nudity. But then like they
Internally, there was saxophones in my head and outside. I don't know. I just
Sexy,
No, it's
sexy.
fine.
sexy chest and
those
sexy
saxophones are going to
saxophones.
take Bill Clinton right to the White House.
Yeah, it was around about that time.
And around here we start getting like not only her being more not domestic, but like them having just conversations about stuff. They have breakfast together, and it's not
They're
you need
they're
to eat.
connecting.
They're connecting.
We're establishing that he's developing that human connection, right? They're giving each other kind of what each other needs.
And also that sex scene, as whatever it is the first time we actually see him naked, right? Like so often we see like her back, but we see his back and he's wearing the vest because he's always in the suit, right? And so to symbolize him letting his guard down, we see his back naked. And even the next morning, she's wearing the robe, like this kind of very late 80s, like it's so floral, it's almost like blinding. And we see his back in the vest immediately because he let his guard down for a second, and she immediately goes out on the porch on the patio to say, "You like this? You're on the balcony with me."
Yeah.
It's cool. They do a good job.
Yeah.
It's interesting to see how he gets comfortable. You know what I mean? Because, like, I don't know. I don't assume he has, like, OCD or some type of something.
It does
where
seem like there's some sort of like inability
some quirk
to
or something,
yeah.
you know, some trust issues. Again,
Control thing.
It's
Sure.
control.
right. And so just even because, like, I don't know, like whenever, I mean, we all have that feeling when we're with our partner and you can fart in front of them. You know what I mean? It's a great feeling, and now it's disgusting. But you know, for you mentioning that, it was just kind of cool letting him his guard down and seeing that, hey, this might be a good relationship for how it started.
You think he farted in front of her?
Not
I think
yet.
he did.
I didn't fart.
He was paying her at the time.
I didn't fart until maybe 7 months into our relationship. I would just keep going to the bathroom to use the bathroom, but it was really to fart. I'm honest.
If you judge oven somebody, they're automatically your boyfriend or girlfriend.
That's
They're
right.
automatically.
Is
your
that
person.
how it happened for?
Yeah.
I do
I
realize.
don't make the rules.
No, I mean she's telling it like it is.
That's what's up.
It's from the Burn book. I realized at this point, at some point in this movie, it was around here maybe, but if we filmed this 5-6 years later, who could play the Richard Gere part? And it's just who he looks like to me.
Josh
It's-
Hartnett.
I was thinking David Duchovny.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. He'd be good.
Because
He'd
it's
be
the
good.
Saul, it's the broad chest, but it's also those pouting lips that he has. Like he's got those David Duchovny lips. Because a lot of the movie he's just kind of doing that. I'm
Yeah,
in
like a
charge, but
stare.
it's that pout.
Yeah.
But it's like, oh, the David Duchovny lips. Around here, he gets called away for business, and his her friend Kit shows up at the hotel. And this is where they have the conversation about who's kind of in charge of the relationship. And she's like eating all the food, and Julia Roberts now looks like Julia Roberts, and Kit still looks
And
like...
Kit realizes that she's in love because
Right.
it's her best friend, and she's like, "You kissed him on the lips, didn't you?" And she's like, "Yeah, you know."
That's right.
That's our rule. You broke it.
Yeah, there's conflict. They break up. And her dream was always to have this white knight. I think she establishes before that was her fantasy of a white knight saving her.
Yeah.
And he
Close.
says, "I've never treated you like a prostitute."
Right.
And she said, "Well, you just did." Like,
Yeah.
you know,
Well, and around here too is where we get the end of the business,
Business.
right? Because they're in the boardroom, and the old man's like, "Look, I just don't want you to destroy the company that I built." And so now it's just Gere and the old man in the office, and he sends everyone out, including Jason Alexander. And so Jason Alexander feels slighted, which is important for the last 10 minutes of this movie. But like the guy from Trading Spaces here, who's an Academy Award winner. This movie came out in 1990. He won his Academy Award in 1937.
Oh, wow.
But
So he's old.
he is a classic oldie.
Yeah.
But this is to say that, look, she has actually reached him, and he is starting to, change. He's becoming a better person, and that better person doesn't need. I don't want to say doesn't need Jason Alexander, but Jason Alexander's character represents this kind of cutthroatness
Yeah,
of business.
yeah.
Well, he could have been the ugly side of things.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, because what's the beginning? The beginning is Jason Alexander's like garden party where he's surrounded
snow
by
party,
people.
yes.
But yeah, that's right. But the problem with the Coke party is he's not meeting anyone. Richard Gere's hiding in another room to take a phone call, but not like Jason Alexander knows or cares about any of these people either. That's the thing.
I think the Jason Alexander character is kind of a warning that that's who Richard Gere could turn into.
he's the ghost
But
of
if-
Christmas
yeah,
future.
if Edward
that's
doesn't
the
change,
cocaine.
right? It's kind of like that's who Edward will be if he doesn't change.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so this is where we get the scene that we didn't expect, which is
Yeah.
So
George
sweet.
trying to rape Julia Roberts, which is a lot.
Yes.
It's a lot of a scene. Because like he comes in saying like, you're a prostitute, right?
Yeah, he's like, "So I thought you could make me feel better because you changed him. Maybe you can change me. Maybe you can make it's
Yeah,
just
it's
disgusting." And
I
I'm
to
honestly,
save herself. I was kind of mad when
Huh?
I kind of wanted Julia to like save herself to like kick the shit out of him, but she's saved by a dude. But
Her white
at least
knight.
she's saved.
Yeah.
The White
Yeah,
Knight
I was kind of hoping she would.
coming down a limo.
I mean, I guess she kind of explains afterwards that she's learned that you're safer just by letting them do whatever they're going to do.
Yeah.
Like, as she says, she's like, why are all guys taught to hit this way? Like, and he's like, all guys don't hit. And she's like, oh. So I guess that was just her way of,
what she's
coping.
used to. Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
good point. Yeah. That's
Yeah,
good.
'cause she scratches him or something because he's bleeding from his face. But like, it's anyway, it's a good scene. Also, you realize that George Costanza's always short. Richard Gere's not taller than him, which is crazy. I didn't
Bruno
realize.
Yeah,
effect.
I don't think he's tall.
I think Julia Roberts is taller than him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know if she is tall, though.
For
I don't.
sure.
I don't know if she's tall, but I don't think Richard Gere is tall. So
No, he's not.
because it could be like a case of a shorter than average guy with a really tall girl, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Nor's looking it up. He's got us.
I'm trying to find Julia Roberts' height. Richard Gere's height.
She is from Smyrna, Georgia.
She is.
Another local girl.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They were a little bit worried about her southern accent with this movie. A little bit. They
Oh,
worked with
really?
her- Yeah. They worked with her a little bit, but they almost, I was reading behind the scenes stuff that they almost threw in a line where she was going to say like something like, "What? I'm from Georgia."
She
So, like,
says
kind of-
she says she's from Milledgeville, Georgia. So maybe
In the movie?
Yeah, she does.
Oh.
So it's when they're in the car at the
I don't
beginning,
remember that part.
and he
Okay.
says, "How do you know about cars?" And she's like, "Whatever, blah blah. Where are you from?" She's like, "Milledgeville, Georgia." Because that was what made me
that's
question
right.
it.
So
'Cause I was like, Milledgeville.
Why, yeah. Okay. So that's why I think they threw that in there a little
Yeah,
bit.
to, like,
is
explain.
Yeah, I think to explain her accent a little
Oh,
bit.
that's funny.
I like
Yeah.
Milledgeville. It's like they took a dart and they just threw it at Georgia from Milledge.
That's why I looked it up, because I was like, "There's no way she would know about Milledgeville if she wasn't from Georgia."
Right.
So height wise,
Yeah.
Julia Roberts, my height, 5'8", and Richard Gere
That's
is
tall.
5'10".
Oh,
Not
okay.
in your life. Really?
5'10", yeah.
Richard,
That's,
okay.
that's what the Google says.
Huh,
sure.
Okay.
That's what. Also, I heard. I don't know if the story about Julia Roberts. It involves
story?
Martin Luther King.
What?
Yes, I love this story. Please tell it. Yes,
So
I love
Martha,
this story. Yep.
they're from Georgia and stuff like that, and I think, and they're, I may be flashing this, but MLK, like his little foundation, paid for the hospital bill for Julia Roberts,
Yep.
like hospital bill when she was born.
Why?
I think because her parents were very inclusive into the community with theater and things like that.
I think I
And
remember
so
this.
Something in that so they were like, "Hey, this brought up," and the kind of thing, and it was almost like, "Here you go, you're cool with us," because like they
Something
were.
like her mom always hired.
Oh yeah, her
Yeah.
mother was very inclusive. Hired
Very
always.
inclusive hiring.
Yeah, she wasn't racist.
Right,
So essentially
right.
because her parents weren't racist. This happened. But yeah, it was a
Yeah.
like,
neat
yeah.
story. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool. How and this happened like how old is she? I mean, she's like
She was an
When she was
infant.
she was a
born.
50,
Yeah, she was a baby.
Well, yeah, this was like during the time. Well, MLK was alive, so before that. Okay, I do math. About 50.
Well, he
50
died in
years ago.
68. Yeah, 68. So it's
So
before
yeah,
that.
so about 55. Well, she's 55 now, so
We can
just
math
yeah,
all day.
I can do math.
You and I could math all day.
What
I
month was
use-
she born in?
Math.
Math.
I think she was also on Finding Your Roots.
She was.
She was
I
also
didn't-
on Finding Your Roots, and they found that she isn't actually a Roberts or
What is
something.
she?
Yeah, some male in her family line had an affair or something.
That was that
That
was directed her line, or
that
yeah.
that affected her line or something.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would hate to do find
That's
my
where she got her
roots.
teeth from.
Well,
Maybe.
and she had famous parents or something.
Well, she has a famous niece, Emma Roberts.
Well, I think
Yeah.
she's
Yeah.
famous now because of
Julia.
Roberts.
Yeah.
That's
But she
what
was
I
on the
was thinking.
Nickelodeons and stuff, and
Yeah.
now she's on the new
She's
season
in
of
She was in American.
American Horror Story,
Yeah.
which was like
Yeah.
really good. Yeah, the Roberts family and her brother. Oh my God, I forgot about her brother, the villain of the '90s
Absolutely.
and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Very, very famous family. Yeah. I've loved that story.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. It's
Oh,
pretty cool.
yeah.
Don't look
So
at me.
George Costanza has attempted to rape her,
Uh-huh.
and Richard Gere came and saved her white knight, which she had shared with him.
They get in a fight. She breaks. That's when she's saying, like you were saying.
Oh, and
"You
she's
never made
saying,
me
like,
feel
what
a
are
prostitute,"
we?
And now, right, yeah.
And he says the best he can do is give her an apartment, and that's when she says, you just treated me like a prostitute for the first time, because he wants to give her an apartment to set her up in New York so he can just come and visit her
Yeah.
and like take care of her.
Well, and she storms out and takes her stuff with her. This is where we get a closing scene with Hector Elizondo with her. But Richard Gere looks out over the city from the balcony, so he's had growth, right? And
Height.
and we have this this limo driver guy from the hotel. The hotel's limo.
What color is the limo?
It's white and he's black.
The white knight. I was referencing the white knight to the white limo, not racism.
It's symbolism.
Yeah. I guess. Did I say what color was it, or what was
Was
color
it
of the
white?
guy?
Was it her? Was it the white horse?
It's a white car.
White
Yeah.
white
He's
limo.
gonna come
So
back.
white
So
Later.
it's the white horse.
It's the
a
white
knight on
knight.
a
It's the white
horse.
knight. Yeah,
Right.
closest thing to a white knight.
on the balcony,
That's
and
really-
you can
that's a
see
really good
You
connection.
can see
Yeah.
that balcony when I've been in LA. That's one of the stops on one of the tours. You can see that little hotel balcony
Her-
where they filmed
still have
that
that?
scene.
Wait, her balcony?
No,
The fire escape.
The actual fire escape.
Yeah.
Like where that's where she lives though.
No, the hotel's
The,
balcony.
the-
Oh, the
hotel's
hotel,
balcony.
the fancy hotel balcony.
no. I'm
She's
saying
talking
where,
about
he,
her
where he
apartment.
saves her.
Yeah,
the apartment.
The apartment balcony.
The fire
Yeah.
escape, the apartment where he pulls up in the white limousine.
Is it in like Burbank?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
so. Yeah, it's there. I remember seeing it when I was in
Yeah,
LA on
okay.
a tour with my parents. So they showed it.
So-
It's one of the stops.
So it's important that they get the limo driver to take her back to her apartment, and then, the hotel guy can like see that Richard Gere loves her and she loves him and whatever, but they decided to go their separate ways, and he's like, just so you know, he knows where she lives.
Well, and like all limo drivers who've taken, say, teens home from prom, they can tell when it's really love, But she's now back at her place talking to Kit and saying, like, look, I'm moving to San Francisco to start fresh. I have this money and like 3 power suits. Julia Roberts Viv gives Kit some money to pay off, I assume, her bookie's debt, which we really didn't get into, but she owes money all over the place.
It was really our pimps.
And a bunch of debt on like rent, which they've been skipping out on. And then she's going to move north, right? And at this point, Richard Gere has grown because he also has now learned Hector Elizondo's name. And turns out she didn't steal the necklace or whatever. We didn't really get into this.
Oh my God, we forgot the little scene.
Yeah.
That which was improvised.
The
That was so
$30,000
cute. That
necklace or
was so
whatever it
cute.
was. It's gorgeous. It's
Yeah.
nice jewelry from whatever Tiffany's it was, but
They had
No,
to
I
have
meant the snap where
Sure.
he snapped it on her hand and she giggled like that. That was so sweet.
Chemistry. That was chemistry.
Yeah, love it.
But then Richard Gere goes to visit the poors in the poor side of town. And because it's a movie, it's raining in LA because that's what you do in LA. But in a scene which I think was important, Kit is out of the apartment because she might have interfered in some way. Because like Richard Gere runs past her and the camera establishes, no, she's downstairs.
Yeah.
Like it's very clear. But Vivian gets her white knight, right? He shows up on the back of a white horse holding up roses and an umbrella because it rained for 7 seconds in LA. So they need an umbrella. They were terrified they could flood away. But yeah, and that's kind of where we end up with credits, right? Mm-hmm. I do like her little like apartment on the wrong side of the tracks because it's just got like band posters on the wall and then one hunky dude next to a mirror. It's great. It's like a dorm apartment. Though we should say further development, he climbs up the fire escape like you alluded to, which again, he's no longer afraid of heights.
Because of love.
Well, he is afraid of heights, but he's willing to face
willing
his
to do
fear.
it.
for
And I
her.
will do anything for love. But I won't do that. Yeah, that was. Wow.
So how many years are we going to give this relationship? Just wondering. Everyone, Vivian going to
2.5.
make it 2.5. Yeah.
No.
How's it gonna work?
I say they go the distance.
You think? I
They
would
go
hope
the
so.
distance.
I was hoping
hope.
there
I'm
would
an
be
optimist.
like a sequel with their kid. But I was like, what would their kid, like, what would the problem be for their kid?
Costanza comes
both
back, "Your
Richard
mother was a
Gere and
whore."
Julia Roberts, both Richard Gere and Julia Roberts have vowed to never make a sequel to this.
George Costanza has a kid, and his kid is a boy, and their kid is a girl, and George Costanza's kid doesn't like his family, and they don't want them to be together because they're like mortal enemies now.
Oh, like a
Yeah, like Romeo and Juliet. It's Pretty Woman too.
No, I thought it was just going to be like Kramer versus Kramer, and it was going to be like the worst, ugliest divorce that you've ever seen.
No, they have to stay together for the sequel. It can't be a sequel of a divorce.
Well, have y'all watched Sex and the City, or was it just me?
I watched it. Yeah.
Have y'all seen what's the new the show that they're doing?
I can't remember what it's called, but I watched it.
Just like that.
Yeah.
Have y'all watched it? Like the first
Yeah.
episode of the
I've
first
watched all
season?
of it.
Okay, never mind. Things could take a dark turn.
More
Yeah,
sex, less city.
Yeah, dementia too. What's that's
I know what you. Yeah. You know, but that was like a way long time later.
Yeah.
I'd be okay with that.
I do realize I just suggested in a movie with Jason Alexander that this could become Kramer versus Kramer. And I realize that that's a very different movie. Just two Kramers just interrupting each other, opening doors loudly. Yeah, I think we've talked about this enough. You can go last since you suggested it. Keiko, what do you think?
It's cute. I mean, if you like romantic comedies, watch it. It's a sweet movie. It's a pop culture hit. Like everybody knows it. Watch it to know about it. It's sweet.
I liked it. Frankly, I would say actually rent it or get it and then watch it. Because I had seen this so many times on TV that the commercial breaks and shit, they break up the momentum. This movie has a lot of good internal momentum that you only get if you sit down and just watch it. So wait till it's on Netflix or whatever, but just sit down and see it. I think that's where it gets its magic from. But yeah, totally fine. A lot of fun. Better than I thought it would be. Enjoyable. Mark?
Yeah, agreed. Like I said, I watched this even though I thought I was watching the full version. I didn't get the piano scene that y'all alluded to, but I guess I got the one sex scene.
Went up to use the bathroom for 6 seconds. I mean, it's the best scene.
It's
in the
like
movie.
that. But no, this movie is really cute. And like I said, it's amazing acting. Just the blocking of just when they're not talking. It's just. You know what I mean? You can actually feel the chemistry. You know, like I've seen a lot of forced chemistry movies, and this one wasn't. Why it did so well. So I really enjoyed it. I recommend it.
Yeah, no, I liked it. I enjoyed it. It's been a long time since I'd seen it, so I enjoyed rewatching it again. I just think it's really well written. I think the dialogue's good. I think the magic is the chemistry between Richard Gere and Julia Roberts. I think there's a reason they made a couple of movies together, is because that's chemistry that you can't make, you can't force between people. It's just there. It's not. I enjoyed it. It was deeper than I remember, funnier than I remember. Yeah, just a good overall entertainment for an hour and a half.
Excellent. Well, thanks everyone for coming out, listening, tuning in, sharing what we do. Next week, we're going to finish up our romance movie month. Somehow there are 5 Thursdays in February, which never happens, but it did this time.
A leap year.
It is. And so we are going to dive into an Academy Award film starring Patrick Swayze called Ghost. Thanks, everyone. Myopia Movies is a podcast production of Dude Letter Podcasting and is produced by Nick Hoffman. It is edited by Nerd Trinette and Daniel Suttis and is hosted by Nick Hoffman, with production assistance by Matthew Quinn, Daniel Suttis, and Nerd Trinette. The theme song is Surf Shimmy by Kevin MacLeod from Incomptech.com. Licensed under the Creative Commons by Attribution 4 license, Creative Commons /licenses by /4.0. Thanks.